The day this video goes up, if I can work that quickly, is the 1-year anniversary of me coming back to YouTube, so I thought I'd do something special. Late last December, Paul of Mitten Squad passed away, and since he was one of my favorite YouTubers, I wanted to pay my respects. So what better way to do both than by putting myself through hell? Can you beat Fallout 4 without taking any damage? I load in, change nothing about my character, name myself Glass Joe, and it's time for stats. 1 in Strength because melee is a death sentence, 5 in Perception because that's very useful, 1 in Endurance for obvious reasons, 1 in Charisma and Luck because they're useless for this run, 10 in Intelligence to maximize experience gain, and 9 in Agility to make sneaking easier. The bombs fell, I got frozen, my wife died, I thawed out, and it's time for the challenge to begin. I opened the console to set my maximum health to 1, so that any damage theoretically kills me. We'll get to why I said theoretically in a minute. While still down in the vault, I experienced death for the first time, got the Pip-Boy, and went outside. Spoke with Codsworth, killed some bloatflies, used the Your Special Book to add another point to Perception, and headed to the Museum of Freedom. I leveled up after discovering Concord, and put my first point in Ninja to boost my sneak attack damage. When you can't take any damage, stealth is the name of the game. Leveled up again, killed the raiders in the museum, grabbed the minigun, and hell began. To start, trying to hit small faraway targets with the minigun didn't go very well, and second, I took damage. After I reloaded a quick save, I checked and had 7 health. Here's the fun part. In Fallout 4, you gain more maximum health every time you level up. At least I think you do. After the first incident, I checked my health almost every time I leveled up. Sometimes I got more, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I didn't get more health until I fast traveled somewhere. There were a handful of times throughout the run where I took damage and didn't die. In those cases, I just manually reloaded a save. I killed some of the raiders and the Deathclaw appeared. I led it to a spot where it couldn't hit me and finished it off. Told Preston to meet me at Sanctuary and scrapped every single collapsed house and destroyed car that I could find. This got me a good amount of steel and I built 185 wire fences for experience. That only got me 1 level. I put the point into the Mr. Sandman perk, so silenced weapons do more sneak damage. I tried to put a suppressor on my 10mm pistol, then realized I needed gun nut rank 2 to do that. Killed Wolfgang, and went to go help the Brotherhood. I wasn't sure who I wanted to side with for this run, and since I know the Brotherhood route the best, I decided to go to ArcJet Systems. Nothing in ArcJet was all that challenging. I cooked Dance Alive, got Righteous Authority, joined the Brotherhood, and it was finally time to head to Diamond City. I got Nick's location from Ellie, did Piper's interview to have a companion, and went to Park Street Station. The Triggerman gave me some trouble. Automatic weapons are a problem when a stray loogie will kill me. In the vault proper, I killed Dino, freed Nick, and confronted Skinny Malone. Remember when I said that Charisma is useless for this run? Yeah, I started regretting that here. The only way out of this situation without a firefight is a speech check. With Charisma at 1, my odds of passing it were pretty low. I safe scummed my way through it, talked to Nick, and went back to Diamond City. I sold all the stuff that I picked up, and went over the kidnapping with Nick. He told me that it was probably Kellogg who stole my kid. Bribed the mayor's assistant to get Kellogg's house key, searched his house, called for dog meat, and began the road to Fort Hagen. I had an annoying encounter with a legendary mole rat that dropped something I can't use. Had 0 out of 0 health for a bit because radiation works pretty weirdly in this game. And made it to Fort Hagen. Inside the fort, I mostly sat back and had Nick do most of the work. With how many synths and turrets there are in the fort, I couldn't really help if I wanted to. Now at Kellogg, I can't start dialogue with him, because as soon as it's done, I will die. So instead, I threw 2 pulse grenades, retreated, and finished him with Righteous Authority. I took his chip, learned about the Institute, the Pridwin arrived, talked to Piper, and started doing Minutemen quests. At this point, I thought I was going to side with the Minutemen, so I went to Corvega Assembly Plant to deal with the raiders. The raiders outside weren't much trouble. I somehow took damage and lived, despite having 1 health, reloaded a save, and went inside. I died a couple of times in here because I was trying to go quickly, but once I started taking my time, it was easy enough. I killed the main raider, then reported back to the settlers, and then talked to Preston, who gave me another quest. I didn't go do that quest, and instead went back to Cambridge Police Station and rode up to the Prydwen. I talked to Elder Mexon, and then changed my mind again, only to go do that Minuteman quest. I was off to Dunwich Borers, only to realize that I didn't have anywhere near the amount of firepower or stealth tactics I was going to need for this quest. So, it was finally time to advance the main quest line and head to Goodneighbor. I got lost for far longer than I would like to admit, watched Finn die, talked to Dr. Amari, and went through Kellogg's memories. Learned about Virgil, and it was time to go to the Glowing Sea. But first, I found Cricket and bought Spray and Pray. I had to sell a significant portion of what I had to get it, but it is absolutely worth it. On my way to the Glowing Sea, I ran into a group of raiders that gave me some issues. There was a legendary raider in the group, and I wanted whatever they had. They dropped a Ghoul Slayer's advanced 10mm pistol. Not only was this better than my current 10mm pistol, but its additional damage to ghouls came in handy many times. I reached the edge of the Glowing Sea and started taking a lot of radiation. Now's a good time to talk about radiation. Radiation works quite differently from Fallout 3 and New Vegas. In those games, if you are doing a 1 health challenge and you hit 250 rads, you get radiation sickness, and it gives you damage, and so you just die. In Fallout 4, radiation will only kill you if it fills your entire health bar at 1,000 rads. Also, the more rads you have, the lower your maximum health is. But because this game doesn't use a purely integer system for health, once I've taken some radiation, my health is technically 0 in the Pip-Boy, because it cuts off decimals. So, being technical about it, I've taken damage. However, I'm not going to count this as invalidating the challenge, because radiation is essentially impossible to avoid. Final side note, a couple times I had to use Radaway to get rid of rads so I wouldn't die, and to make the challenge as relatively consistent as possible, I would set whatever my current health was then to 1. Even though this made my technical max health larger than 1 for a short bit of time, if I took damage and somehow lived, I would just reload a save. I made it to Virgil's cave, learned about coursers, and went back to Dunwich Borers. Clearly, I didn't get enough of a beating in round 1. I took things even slower this time, and with the extra firepower of Spray and Pray, I made my way through this quest, went back to Preston, and got another job to do. I cleared Starlight Drive-In, set up the radio beacon, and got even more shit to shovel. I was off to Nordhagen Beach to kill the raiders at Easy City Downs. This was easy enough, at least until Nick started shooting the robots and putting me in unnecessary danger. I finished the raiders, and then the robots because I felt like it. Went back to Preston again, and it's time to take back the castle. But first, I got to watch the 3rd annual Vertibird Acrobatics show. They even turned invisible at the end. Amazing. I was not very excited to storm the castle. I wasn't concerned about the regular Mirelurks or hell, even the Queen. I was concerned about all the little fellas running around. Between their size, them blending into the dirt, and my poor eyesight, these bastards were the ones I needed to keep an eye out for. In fact, my only death here was from one of the hatchlings. I killed the Queen, powered up the radio, went back to Diamond City to sell stuff, and the courser hunt was on. I couldn't remember where Green Tech Genetics was, so I had to use the courser signal like an idiot. I found the building, went inside, and started dealing with the gunners. This place is pretty similar to Fort Hagen, but the enemies are a bit more spread out, and with my sneak being as good as it is, this wasn't much of an issue. The courser, however, was. He has a lot of health, and is extremely accurate. My only remotely good option was to leave mines in my path as he followed me, and taking pot shots with Spray and Pray whenever I could. After a lot of trial and error, the courser is dead. His chip is much nicer than Kellogg's, and went back to Dr. Amari, who sent me to the railroad. The Old North Church was easy enough with that special pistol I got earlier. Met the railroad, got the chip decoded, got the signal interceptor plans from Virgil, built it, and went into the Institute. I talked to Father and considered killing him, but there'd be no way I'd be able to get out of the Institute, so he gets to live for now. I met the scientist and left to do more Minutemen quests. After entering the building, Nick decided it was finally time to have multiple drawn-out conversations about his past, and it was finally time to tell Nick the truth. He's adopted. I finished that quest and a couple more, and it was time to return to the castle. I spoke with Ronnie Shaw and went down into the tunnels. Sarge woke up, I killed him, grabbed the artillery supplies, built the cannon, tested it, and went to do synth retention. From what I remember, to do the Minutemen ending, you need to do Institute missions until you get the chance to side with the Minutemen. I met up with the Courser, who was completely useless during this mission, used the recall code on the synth, and started the Battle of Bunker Hill. It was here that I realized it was going to be a huge pain in the ass to side with the Minutemen, so I reloaded save from before I started the mission, and finally started siding with the Brotherhood. Siding with the Brotherhood means that I need to clear out Fort Strong. I managed to not get hit a single time during the vertibird flight, and thought for a little bit that I wasn't able to take damage while in a vertibird. A later part of this run proved that wrong. I killed the behemoth, and then a legendary super mutant butcher that dropped a DLC gun that I can't get ammo for. I entered Fort Strong, killed everything, and was ordered to convince Madison Lee to rejoin the Brotherhood. If you remember, my charisma is at 1. To convince Madison Lee, you need to pass 3 speech checks that get harder as they go. I could have just failed this and tracked down the other person for this mission, but I didn't want to do that. I sat there and I save scummed my way through all 3 checks. The only thing that annoyed me by doing this is that I passed the second and third checks in less combined tries than the first and easiest check. I went back and was immediately sent out again for a cool fridge magnet. Found the magnet, built the actuators, and was sent out again, this time for nuclear weapons. I went to Sentinel Site, cleared out the ghouls, secured the nukes, and Maxon dropped his own nuke on me. Dance is a synth, and Maxon wants me to deal with him. I don't like Maxon, so I let Dance live. I forgot that I accidentally took Dance's clothes off at some point, so this scene was pretty funny. Just as I finished speaking up with Dance, this happened. I went back to the Prydwen and spoke with Maxon, then with Kells, and it's time to eliminate the railroad. In the Old North Church, the regular agents weren't too bad. Take it slow and stealthy, and you shouldn't have many problems. In Railroad HQ, however, it's a different story. The main issue here is Glory with a minigun. If you kill them first, another NPC will pick up the minigun. If you kill them last, you have to deal with an enemy with a minigun. The options here aren't great. I used the Stealth Boy and Spray and Pray to deal with Glory, then retreated back through the door. Turns out that this resets their aggression and they stop looking for you. I used this trick to slowly deal with everyone down in the HQ, but apparently still hadn't killed Deacon. For some reason, he was not only outside of the church, but rather far away from it too. I waited until he was in sight and took care of him. The next mission takes me to Mass Fusion. If you know this mission, you know why this is awful. If you don't, let's run through the problems. Problem 1. I can't take damage. Problem 2. There are at least half a dozen synths on the roof at any given time. Problem 3. All of the synths are firing at me and I am stuck in a vertibird. I can't just hide in a corner and let a companion deal with them. I am stuck out in the open, and the only way to defend myself is with a minigun against faraway targets. As we saw at the start of the game, that's bad. Problem 4. At least a quarter of the times that I died while the vertibird was circling Mass Fusion, my game crashed. There's a problem 5, but we'll get to that in a minute. After about 20 minutes of attempts, I gave up and went to level up a bit. I was after the perk that increases the damage of big guns. This perk needs strength of 5. My strength is 1, so I went and did a lot of Minutemen quests. Nothing particularly interesting happened, so let's skip by this. After many more attempts, I managed to get the vertibird to the point where I could jump out onto the roof. Here's where problem 5 comes in. Problem 5 is fall damage. If I jump out of the vertibird, I will die to fall damage. It was extremely tempting to just give myself health or use God mode to survive the fall, but at this point it would invalidate the challenge, so I decided against it. So I reloaded a save from before I got on the vertibird and hopped into a power armor frame. I was initially concerned that the power armor would interfere with my ability to take damage. I was proved wrong very quickly. After a couple of days and too many crashes to count, it was finally time that I gave up. I reloaded the save where I made it without power armor, gave myself health to survive the fall, then put my health back to 1 before anything else could damage me. Going through mass fusion wasn't that bad, at least until I reached the reactor. For one, I almost died to the radiation, even with Rad-X and Radaway. I grabbed the beryllium agitator and had to face a fucking sentry bot. After managing to hide from it, I blasted it with spray and pray and finished it off. Then it was time for 2 Assaultrons. I got really lucky here, with Codsworth blocking the door, so I was able to deal with both at the same time. I got out of mass fusion without any issues, put the agitator in Liberty Prime, and started the slow march to CIT Ruins. I would have just fast traveled there, but I probably would have been killed before I could even move. I fought the synths, Liberty Prime used his Gallic gun, and I entered the Institute for the final time. I made my way through the old parts of the Institute easily, since I had a few NPCs helping me. I took the elevator up to Father, ignored the dialogue, and killed him with Kellogg's pistol. Down in the reactor room was a bit concerning, as there were many enemies, including legendary coursers, but my allies took care of them easily enough. I shut down the reactor, placed the fusion pulse charge, and got teleported away. I told the kid he could come with me, left the Institute, pushed the button, and did not beat Fallout 4 without taking any damage. As much as parts of this run sucked, it was pretty fun overall. Would I recommend you try this? Maybe. If you do, don't do the Brotherhood ending. I had a lot of fun trying out this video format, and I think I'll probably do more, but very rarely. This is going to be a not often thing because this took me forever to do. That's about it for this. I'll see you guys for whatever's up next.